Have you ever found yourself asking, perhaps in the privacy of some sleepless night, whether the bad things that keep happening aren't just random, but the work of someone's will? Are the negative events in your life simply coincidence? Or could they be signs that someone is turning to witchcraft against you? It's a question as old as human anxiety and as fresh as the notifications on your phone. When luck sours, relationships fracture, and invisible weights draw your spirit downward, we grope for explanation. Is fate simply capricious, or are there hands, unseen and unwelcome, tugging secretly at the threads of your life? Let me take you back for a moment, not centuries, but just a single generation. Recall the way we speak of bad vibes, energy vampires, or manifesting misfortune. Listen to how a friend mutters about haters, or a coworker quietly blames a sudden downturn on jealousy, on envy, on the ill intent of others. The language is modern, but the suspicion is ancient. Witchcraft may not always look like cauldrons and curses. Sometimes it is whispered in a boardroom, sometimes it's typed into the comment section beneath your smallest online triumphs. Once, fears of hexes and spells might have been spoken in villages by firelight, but today they move incognito, cloaked in the language of therapy, of psychology, of anonymous criticism and sabotage. And here's why this matters. This secret, ancient fear shapes our actions still. Every unexplained misfortune, each relational chill where once was warmth, every string of hardship that feels suspiciously personal presses us to ask, am I under attack? Think for a moment. Have you ever experienced a string of setbacks that defied logic? Money vanishing, friendships dissolving without reason, persistent illness or exhaustion that doctors can't decipher? How quickly do we blame ourselves, or else shrug and say, life happens, never pausing to ask if something more deliberate might be afoot? The stakes are high, and not just in storybooks. Ignore the strange, and you risk letting the inexplicable fester unchecked. Perhaps your job opportunities vanish just as you're about to reach your potential. Maybe, after years of harmony, sudden conflict divides your family or friendships. Or perhaps a creeping sense of malaise moves through your home, a subtle stain on the days you once found joyful. Too easily we write these off as random, as the universe's indifferent noise. Yet history is filled with warnings. Don't dismiss the signs too quickly. Don't surrender your equilibrium to the idea that you are powerless. What if I told you there are recognizable patterns, 5, in fact, that can reveal when your misfortunes are more than just bad luck? Learning these signs is not about giving in to paranoia, but about reclaiming your power. Like learning to notice the smell of gas in the air before a fire breaks out. This knowledge gives you the ability to respond, to protect, and to shift your fate back into your own hands. It's not about hunting witches in the night. It's about hunting for meaning and strategy when adversity feels pointed and peculiar. Let's be clear. This isn't about the tall tales of black cats, bubbling potions, or cartoonish villains. The disruptions I'm speaking of are neither dramatic nor theatrical. They slip into your life like a chill draft under a locked door. They are real, they are methodical, and when they arrive, they often feel cruelly calculated. How else to explain the sudden targeted decay of what once prospered, your health, your aspirations, your relationships? The pain feels personal because perhaps it is. Have you ever thought, why me? Why now? And found that no justification, no rational answer will settle your mind? That is the hallmark of something that demands closer attention. And so, as we begin this philosophical reflection, let's ground ourselves in a simple truth. Knowledge is empowerment. The philosophical life is, above all, the examined life. When you cultivate awareness, when you begin to question, to observe signs, to insist on interpreting your own experience rather than accepting the chaos of fate, you stand against the tides of passivity and fear. Ignoring the subtle currents of your suffering cedes your agency to whatever forces might wish you harm, be they human, supernatural, or simply patterns of neglect and misunderstanding. So, I invite you to listen closely, not just with curiosity but with intent. This exploration isn't about stoking superstition or raising suspicion against every neighbor. It is about vigilance, about pattern recognition, about empowering you to reclaim authorship over your story. Everyone faces adversity, but only some people learn to read its secret language, to respond rather than merely endure. In the moments that follow, as we delve into the 5 signs that someone could be targeting you through subtle yet devastating means, ask yourself, what have I overlooked? In which parts of my life has strange coincidence been allowed to reign unchallenged? What might become possible if I learned to see the world not as a hostile maze, but as a code I can decipher? Remember, to know is not to live in fear, but to live awake. And in such wakefulness, you may find that the power to repel darkness was always yours, so long as you recognized its approach. So, let us begin. Let's venture deeper into the dense, often shadowy landscape where unusual troubles take root and quietly undermine our well-being. I want you to imagine, just for a moment, the first sign, the arrival of persistent, illogical negative patterns. These aren't the awkward, lopsided days we all endure. The car won't start, you spill coffee on your shirt, an email goes astray. Those are the normal debris of life, unwelcome but unremarkable. Instead, I'm asking you to consider something sharper, more uncanny, setbacks or losses that seem to materialize out of thin air, strike with impossible timing, and cluster in ways that feel targeted rather than random. Why do some obstacles feel as though they've been selected, curated with intimate knowledge of you, and set in your path by invisible hands? For some, this takes the form of lost opportunities that slip away for reasons that defy explanation. A friend turns inexplicably cold without cause. Job offers dissolve at the 12th hour for obscure reasons. Cherished possessions vanish or relationships unravel in patterns too complex for mere coincidence. Here, the regular cadence of adversity is disrupted, replaced by a syncopation that makes you pause and ask, why me? Why now? Why this again? Such patterns are distinctive in their specificity. While garden-variety bad luck affects anyone at any time, these experiences cluster. They reoccur with unyielding predictability around certain dates, people, or settings. They resist your best efforts at repair. Counseling doesn't mend the anger. Medicine fails to touch the fatigue. Apologies fall flat. The impression builds as if an unseen script is being followed, one that you didn't write. Linda's story, in this respect, is hauntingly familiar to anyone who has ever wondered if there's more behind their woes than chance alone. A vibrant woman in her early 40s, Linda enjoyed good health and fulfilled work, and surrounded herself with trustworthy friends. Then, out of nowhere, something shifted. It started as a persistent tiredness, the kind coffee couldn't beat and sleep couldn't assuage. Soon, emotional turbulence followed, irritation at small things, disproportionate sadness, a mounting sense of dread. She did the sensible thing: medical tests, therapy, adjustments to diet and exercise. Nothing made a dent. The puzzle pieces refused to fit, her sense of self evaporating beneath a tide of inexplicable symptoms. Only later, through months of meticulous journaling and reluctant self-examination, did Linda trace the contours of her distress to a single, recurring pattern. Her symptoms flared always after visiting a particular acquaintance whose conversations, in hindsight, left Linda feeling belittled and uneasy. It's easy in this era of scientific diagnosis and psychological insight to dismiss such patterns as coincidence or, worse, exaggeration. Yet, Linda's reluctant experiment in self-awareness was revelatory. She kept a daily log, tracking when her symptoms appeared, who she'd seen, the dreams that unsettled her at night. In doing so, the fog lifted, and the pattern was made startlingly clear. When Linda distanced herself from this individual, her energy returned, her mood lifted, and her life quietly rebalanced. It was not, she realized, a failing body, but a spirit writhing in the presence of an unwholesome influence. This form of detailed journaling may sound tedious or even neurotic, but there is ancient wisdom in tracking the tides of your experience. Our ancestors, though they lacked our vocabulary for psychology and physiology, knew the importance of attending to the subtle interplay between the body, the soul, and the larger world. In medieval Europe, not just the stuff of fairy tales, mysterious ailments, or what we would now call bad luck, were often attributed to the ill will of others. Witchcraft, in that context, was not simply superstition. It was a way of naming the boundary where familiar remedies failed, where illness clung like a shadow, unresponsive to comfort, logic, or tincture. Wise women and scholars alike counseled, pay attention to the moments, the people, and the places where misfortune clusters. Rituals of protection were not just magical thinking. They were forms of seeking meaning in chaos, of reclaiming agency over an adversarial world. At the heart of all this history and advice lies a paradox. The more you allow yourself to notice, to really notice, the patterns of what befalls you, the more you invite intuition to sharpen into awareness. This isn't about conjuring phantoms where none exist, nor is it dismissing every hardship as someone else's curse. Rather, it's an attunement to the language by which your own life speaks to you. When you begin to see recurring themes, misfortune that resists all explanation or remedy, mysterious heaviness around certain people or places, you gain information. That insight, drawn from careful observation, does something vital. It arms you, not just against the supernatural, but against complacency, despair, and helplessness. You begin, perhaps for the first time, to draw a boundary, however fragile, between yourself and the world's unseen, capricious tides. Is it the workings of others, or something latent in yourself? Can self-awareness alone change the arc of misfortune? Perhaps the answers are as diffuse as the energies that shape our fates. What matters is that you make space to ask the questions, to become a deliberate observer of your own patterns, to trust the subtle adjustments of intuition as it refines itself against experience. In that liminal space between attention and action lies the first real hope of transformation. Let's pause for a moment and look closer at a different kind of sign, the sort that catches your attention not with dramatic flourish, but through quiet strangeness, the third sign, if you will. Imagine returning home and finding a small bundle of hair neatly tied with twine behind your door, or a cluster of dried herbs artfully arranged beneath your window, or perhaps an old, unfamiliar jar, crusted and sealed, left at the back of a closet that no one has opened in years. What would run through your mind? Would you laugh it off as a prank, or would something inside you recoil, warning you that, regardless of how mundane these objects might seem, they carry a peculiar charge? There's a reason that, across cultures and centuries, the discovery of odd objects, carefully arranged, wrapped, hidden in plain sight, has been taken as the physical evidence of forces that defy simple explanation. In the lore of village elders and whispered accounts from city apartments, such objects are never accidental. They are the smoking gun left behind by someone wishing to mark a space, convey an intention, or project a subtle energy. The artful bundle or the strange jar isn't the power itself, but is a vessel, a carrier of intent, a physical token that bridges the gap between thought and reality, between wish and action. How should one respond in such moments? The answer might seem prosaic, but it's crucial. Treat the object with respect and caution. Do not pick it up bare-handed or dismiss it with a nervous joke. Instead, protect yourself. Don gloves, use a cloth or even tongs, and remove the item from your space. If possible, cleanse the area in a way that resonates with your beliefs. Wash, sweep, burn sage, recite a prayer, or simply open the windows to let the air and whatever energies might linger disperse. The specific ritual is less important than the intention: to reclaim your space, to assert that your will, not another's, governs your domain. But perhaps you've never found a physical sign. Instead, you've witnessed the fourth sign, a creeping, subtle shift in social weather. Dinners fill with tension, old friends turn cold, lovers grow distant or defensive for no clear reason. Communication, once easy, nuanced, and joyful, becomes fraught, full of misunderstandings, accusations, or silences that sting. You scroll through your phone and see that acquaintances have unfollowed you or left curt, inexplicable messages. And all the while, you sense a growing isolation, as if some invisible barrier has been placed between you and the people you trust most. Is this just the ebb and flow of life? Or is there, hidden beneath the mundane explanations, a more profound disturbance, a social sabotage carried not by words or gestures, but by something older, subtler, and invisible? Folklore, ever practical, offers countless tales of supernatural influence, dividing families, poisoning friendships, setting communities against one another. This is a work not of overt malevolence, but of distortion, stories twisted in the telling, intentions misunderstood, kindness met with suspicion. Whether we name it energy, spell, or simply bad luck, the real threat is the eroding of bonds that make us safe. It's here, in this ambiguity, that belief and skepticism collide. For the skeptic, these ruptures in society are psychological artifacts, products of stress, circumstance, or coincidence. Relationships fall apart all the time. Patterns emerge from the chaos merely because we are pattern-seeking creatures. The believer, however, sees rhyme and reason in the timing, meaning in the suddenness, and purpose in the way these disturbances align with other signs. Who is right, or does it matter? In the end, our reality is shaped less by what is true in the abstract, and more by what we notice, by what moves us to action, vigilance, or change. There is wisdom here, whichever side you lean toward. If you notice these changes, trust your intuition, but do not let suspicion metastasize into paranoia. Instead, become a diligent documentarian of your own life. Write down what you find, the odd objects, the conversations that went awry, the days when everything seemed awash in unease. Approach your relationships with compassion and courage. Ask, don't accuse. Confront with care, not condemnation. So often, the line between supernatural malice and ordinary misunderstanding is as thin as a whisper. In this dance between reason and wonder, how might we protect ourselves? With openness and discipline. Recognize the signs, yes, but never surrender to reflexive blame. Look for evidence, but remember context. And when the unseen tries to fracture what you hold most dear, your space, your peace, your connections, answer not with fear, but with clarity and quiet resolve. If we are watchful in the face of strangeness, gentle in confrontation, and steadfast in reclaiming what we love, then, whatever the mystery, we cannot be wholly undone. So, let us draw our meditation to a close by stepping into the most elusive, yet most crucial territory of all, the landscape of intuition and those delicate but insistent signals we so often ignore. Have you ever woken in the dead of night with a heart pounding for reasons you can't name, a thundercloud of unease pressing at the boundary of your consciousness? Or maybe you've sat at your desk feeling a restless flutter in your stomach before a meeting or a phone call, your logic telling you everything is fine, but your body insisting otherwise. These experiences aren't empty superstition or simply overthinking. They are our ancestral warning bells, shaped by untold generations of survival. Consider the story of the woman who, for weeks, was haunted by the same recurring dream. An unlit hallway, a sense of being watched, a closed door she dared not open. She'd wake in a cold sweat, each time brushing it off as just stress. But the dreams continued, each iteration more intense. As days passed, she started noticing small things in her waking life. A persistent sense of being observed, a reluctance to enter certain rooms, even her pets acting strangely. Only when she paused to weave these threads together, her dreams, her gut, the tangible shifts in her environment, did she realize her subconscious was pleading for attention. She cleansed her home, set new boundaries with a difficult neighbor, and over time, the dreams faded. What might have happened had she dismissed it as random noise? You see, intuition is not evidence to be relegated to the margins of thought, nor is a visceral sensation in your body an automatic signal of paranoia. Imagine for a moment the countless times you've disregarded a persistent gut feeling, maybe about a toxic friend, a too-good-to-be-true job offer, or simply the urge to take a different route home, and regretted it in hindsight. The world teaches us to privilege the visible, the rational, the data-driven. But what if our most ancient, most attuned source of intelligence is precisely this? Our unseen, unquantifiable sense that something is not right? These physical and emotional alarms are not vestigial remnants of a superstitious mind, but living testimony. They are your life's early warning system, tuned by experience and buried truths. When several signs align, serendipitous patterns, environmental oddities, shifting moods, and now mounting intuition, it is not only reasonable but necessary to act. This is not a call to paranoia, but to self-empowerment. Awareness begets agency. If your body, mind, and spirit are combining to whisper or scream in a chorus of concern, honor it. Take proactive steps, even if you cannot yet articulate the full reason. There is strength, not shame, in honoring your total perception. Now, you might wonder, what can you do once you recognize these cumulative signs? The human story is rich with practices, old and new, drawn from every culture on earth. There is the ritual of salt, scattering grains in thresholds, pouring bowls beneath beds, unchanged for thousands of years. The cleansing of a room with the smoke of sage or palo santo, the deep resonance of bells and chimes, breaking stagnant energies. Protective stones, carried quietly or placed deliberately. Obsidian, black tourmaline, even tumbled quartz, each believed to absorb or deflect darkness. More modern, perhaps, is the power of visualization, imagining yourself surrounded by light, a shield no harmful intention can penetrate, or simply reclaiming your space with intentional words. You may smile at some of these and wonder if they are anything more than comforting ritual. But the power of such acts lies not solely in their history, but in how they tune your consciousness, anchoring your intention and asserting your will upon the space around you. Our ancestors survived on the combined strength of action and belief. These are not mere superstitions. They are a language, a way to make the invisible visible, to reassert your agency when you feel threatened or unmoored. This, ultimately, is the pivot of our reflection. Do you choose to walk through life passively, eyes half shut, dismissing whispers and disregarding patterns? Or do you claim the role of protagonist in your own story, choosing awareness, even in the face of something that resists logic or easy explanation? Every day, you have the power to become either the passive victim of forces you ignore or the active victor who defends their peace. There's a quietly revolutionary power in saying, "No, I will trust myself. Yes, I will take action, however small. I will protect what is precious, starting with myself." Because what we are talking about is not just a series of strange events, nor just spiritual hygiene for the faint-hearted. It is a deeper battle, fought as much within our minds as in the world around us. A determination not to be shaped by fear, but to be guided by awareness and courage. By recognizing, addressing, and acting on even subtle threats, we reclaim control over our destinies one choice at a time. So I leave you with this. The signs are everywhere, waiting for you to notice. Not all dangers can be seen or explained away. You have every right to safeguard your spirit, your home, your sense of self. Listen, trust, act, and keep learning, for life is a teacher as persistent as any warning dream. Take the next step, whatever shape it takes. Your intuition is not a ghost to be exercised, but an ally to be heeded. In this world of subtle forces, your awareness and action are your greatest protection. What will you do next time the whispers come?